Well, this is Pastor Tim from the Avenue. Welcome to all of you all out there, wherever you may be listening to us and however you may be listening to us. Just having a really cool and fun conversation with friends as we get ready to celebrate 5 years of being a covenant family. And so I'm going to start by having y'all introduce yourself and maybe telling us when you started your Avenue journey. So we'll move left to right, starting with Rachel. How about it?
My name is Rachel Mackey, and I've been with the Avenue since the beginning, part of the core
She was
fam.
not Rachel Mackey when she joined on.
This is true. This is true. It was Rachel Harkins then.
Hey, my name is Douglas Skipworth, and like Rachel, I've been here from the beginning.
Do you get member one classification? Oh, that's right, that's right.
Officially, I'll pull out my card.
Ooh, okay. I was like, it's not uncommon. He might have documentation to verify. Anyway, how about Annie?
I'm Renisha Love, and I've been here from the beginning-ish. So.
And was not Renisha Love
I
at the
wasn't.
beginning.
Renisha Moore.
That's right.
I am Stephen Akindana, also affectionately known here as Big Ak, Big Daddy.
No, that is not how we know you here.
And I think I started in the summer of 2019.
That's right.
I'm Cullen Johnson. I have been at the Avenue for about 4 years. So we started coming right before the first year anniversary. So that's how I remember it's been about 4 years.
Been about 4 years. And you did not have a last name change?
I did not. My last name is Johnson and it still is Johnson.
Not the Black Johnson.
The white
True.
Johnson.
The white Johnson. This is true. Hey man, well we love it. Hey, we'll start first going down memory lane. There's a lot of events at the Avenue, but you can answer this whichever way you feel in your heart. Either the first memorable event for you when you think about your journey with the Avenue, or the most memorable, however you feel like. First event, first moment, most memorable moment. And just tell us why it was memorable to you. And so I'll throw it to the floor. We don't actually have to go in this order. Whoever wants to get it first can go. So how about it?
I will definitely go first. So my most memorable moment, it wasn't the first, but it was a very memorable moment. It was my first Cocos and Carols night.
That's one of mine too.
Yes, we were at Central Barbecue.
Freezing.
It was so cold. It was so cold.
And I just remember we're playing the songs, and by that time I was fully into being part of the music at the Ave. And I just remember multiple times I was like, it is so cold out here. But then I would look and see like everybody else was just freezing, but we were all having such a good time. It was just like, I just have never been in a church community event like that where the conditions were miserable. But we were like, it is more important for us to like hang out and have this community time that we all just went, we didn't think about how cold it was. And I just remember multiple times looking out at everybody and be like, everybody's having so much fun and they're miserable, but having so much fun because it's so cold. So that's one of the things that sticks in my mind is like, man, this is really cool how that all worked out like that.
Y'all are looking at me. I guess that means I'm supposed to go next. The first memorable moment that I thought about was really the first year anniversary. And I think we had been coming for a few weeks at that point, but that was when I was like, man, this truly is a really special place, because it was really fun to kind of what we're doing now, like hear stories just in a year about how much people had been impacted at the church. And I was like, this is a really special place. You can tell these people really, really care about each other, and that they've all really grown in their faith and created something really, really special. And it's like, I want to be a part of that.
I guess for me, I think most everybody knows, or I guess some people know that the first service was Easter of 2018, a pre-launch. And what nobody really knows, that was when you brought the good news of Mark chapter 1 about the gospel coming to us and Jesus being here. But what nobody really knows is that was my father-in-law's last earthly worship service. And we lost Meryl's dad to Parkinson's disease a week later. And it was a hard time for us, but as I look back now, I'm remembering and remember it so fondly because he was ending his earthly ministry and passing his baton or the torch to us at the Avenue to take that light. And here 5 years later, we have taken it. And so from that came that. And I'm like, that to me is like one of my first favorite memories about the Ave.
That's sweet. Man.
My favorite is also the Easter service of 2018, but for different reasons. One being, it was so beautiful to see the people from Second Pres who came to help and do childcare for us because we had nobody to do all of the behind the scenes things. So many people from different places came and did that for us, and so we were able to just be a church family and hear the good news. And I still really big smile every time you do that now because it just has such deep memories and feelings wrapped up in it. So
That is special. That is special. Am I supposed to get one of these? Do I have to give my favorite?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm
Let's
trying
hear
to
it.
figure out, man. Let me see.
I guess one of my
You got one?
favorites.
You
Go
get
ahead.
her
Go
first.
ahead.
I would agree with Og. One of mine, it wasn't the one you were talking about, but Coco's and Carol's when we went to
Sheffy's?
Sheffy's. Yes, I think that was one of my first ones. And it was just good to see, kind of what he was saying, seeing people willing to be out in the cold and worship
Yeah.
Jesus. And I was like, I love this. I want to be a part of something like this for the rest of my life, rest of my days, you know.
Yeah.
And another one of my favorite memories is when we used to have Bible study over at Streets Ministry, following up what we had learned from the sermon on Sunday. And I think it was one of my first ones. I was like, I'm scared to be here. I don't want to talk to anyone. But it was just good to be around people, connect with people. And I was just like, you know what? I really like this. And I want to be a part of this. But, yeah, I miss those Bible studies.
Man, post-COVID, I think every church, whether they were 1 year old or whether they were 20-year-old, is probably re-navigating their post-COVID landscape and their ministry and whatever. And we weren't unaffected by that, but we do cherish those times. Those are really sweet. Shout out Streets, 1304 North Graham. You know what I'm saying? One church in 3 locations. My kids still we ride down Summer and they look at the first office building next to Walgreens and they're like, Dad, that's your old office. And it's like, so God has been really kind to us with space and I do literally, when I cannot think about the Avenue without thinking about Streets. And I think probably my first memorable moment or / event was kind of connected to Streets, but it was kind of at our house because that was when we 2017, I had been kind of courting everybody and saying, hey man, I'm trying this thing and we're gonna try a thing together and we're gonna try to be a group together. Would you kind of take the risk and jump off? And just the excitement, even for me, I think, especially with people who have church planters with personalities like mine, maybe they present confidence, but it's like, I've heard an analogy about kind of the ducks who, on top of the water, it's, very, very, sturdy underneath, like, is it all gonna work out? And I think, I was very much like, man, is this gonna work? I'm not sure, so I'm just hoping. And so, man, just to see the literal sheets, covenants, like, hey man, I'd be willing to be a part of this covenant body. That was just always special for me. And I was like, if we can get over that first hump, I knew we can get on and we could do what we wanted to do. So that was really special. Everybody here was coming from a church home. When did the Avenue finally feel like home for you? I know obviously, and I think it's important too. So I'm asking you to truly unpack and whatever. I was sitting with a group of a core family who have their hearts set on launching within 10 months to 18 months from now. It's the beginning of their church plant journey. So I think it is really, really important not to just hear from pastors about success stories or horror stories, but real stories from the people who took the leap of faith to come and be a part. And so, I'm looking at a couple of y'all who I know came from churches where you weren't pining to leave the church. You know what I'm saying? There's some times where, church plants just collect a bunch of disgruntled people or displaced people. And I understand the importance of that now. God, I'm taking over this thing, but I'm just saying, I do understand the importance of church plants and how they provide spaces for Christians who've been displaced. I have a greater appreciation for that now than I did, before I began this journey. But especially for those of y'all who came from places where you knew health, community, when did the Avenue finally feel like home for you?
I'll go. I am one of those people that had a pretty solid community where I was and just really felt like the Lord was saying that this is where I needed to be. But for me, I remember I had 2 kids that I would bring pretty regularly in the beginning. And
Walter?
Yes, and Jada.
And Jada.
And that is one of the reasons why this became home, was you knew their names, you cared for them, you hugged them when they came in. And then Miss Macon was the other reason. Because Christmas, she bought gifts for so many kids. And Walter and Jada were 2 of those that she was like, there was something specific, it was a Bible or something, and she came up the week before they were supposed to get the gifts. And she hadn't been able to find it or something, and it was just the fact that she cared so much that she was going out of her way to find these things that the kids wanted or that I was asking for. Made me feel like this place cares for one another so well. Even kids that I'm bringing that nobody knows initially. It was really sweet.
Man, that's crazy. I think that was actually what I wrote down. Being in the collegiate chapel with you and just probably the first time we wept together. Just hard and just very sad at the passing of our sister. And just that whole process of grieving and then preparing for her services as this multicultural experiment, preparing this large funeral for this Black woman from South Memphis. It was probably just the most hilarious thing, but it pulled us together in a lot of ways, and forever grateful for her life, but definitely grateful for how we grew together through that. And it really felt like my home then too,
Yeah. For me, I heard that there was going to be a Bible teaching, community-focused church plant in my stomping ground over on Summer Avenue. And I was like, ooh, tell me more. And then they said Tim Johnson was going to be the lead pastor. And I was like, sign me up. And so I called Tim and I was like, is this true, man? Are you doing what I'm hearing about you doing? And you said, it's true. And I was like, ride or die. And we have ridden a lot since then and had a lot to go through. But
as the not the Jason Bourne movies, but what's the other guy, other handsome British guy with the yes, as 007 movies would say, we ride a lot, but it ain't no time to die yet, brother.
Ain't no time to die.
I think for me, I was coming from a church that was just, I didn't feel connected to people. I wasn't feeling fed spiritually. It was just, so I was looking for a church home where I can connect with people and Bible teaching man. I mean, basically. But it was a specific moment where I was like, this is my church home. So for people who don't know, my mom passed away in 2018. And every year I went to breast cancer walks in honor of my mom. And so this specific year, I don't think I was going to go, or the weather was bad or something. So my friends put together a walk for her in honor of her name, and Pastor Tim showed up, and I was just like, you're here. Like, I don't even know the words to explain that I was feeling, but it was just like, wow, I have a pastor who wasn't, I was just dating the church at this point, as he would say. But he came out to support, and to have a pastor that come out to support outside of the church, walk with you in grief, walk with you through hard times. It's like, I want to be under someone leadership like that. And he's a good teaching pastor, and he walks with you through hard times and the good times. So that at that moment, I was like, yeah, this is where I want to be.
Well, I would say I was one of the nomads. I was church hunting, church shopping, and I had come from several different church experiences, a lot of church hurt in those experiences. Prior to the AV, I just was always on full-time staff as worship leader at churches. And so I was just like, I'm not doing that anymore. I felt like, being paid to be on church staff is great, but I just felt like at some point I was going I would say God is calling me to this church, but God was only calling me to the church because it had a job opening. It was just like, yeah, God's calling me to one of these 3 churches because these are the ones that are hiring. And so it was exciting for me and Eunice to say, we're not looking for a job opportunity. We want to go where the Lord wants us to be. And really, what does that mean? Where does that go? So we visited everywhere. I mean, we went to churches in all 3 states, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee. I mean, some of it was fun. It was fun going to churches and then not even be able to sit through the worship because weird stuff was happening and being like, all right, let's go. So
He's not lying.
yeah, no, I'm not lying. But I came to the AV the very first Sunday that I came to visit. Immediately after service, I had 3 families invite me and Eunice over for lunch after church. And I was just like, this has never happened to me before. I've never went as a first-time person, and I knew Tim and Tim knew me, so we talked, but I didn't tell him I was coming. I didn't give him a heads up. I just kind of showed up one Sunday. And then after service, people were like, hey, you're new. And I'm just like, yeah, oh, tell me about yourself. Oh, my name is this. It's like, hey, we're going to go grab lunch. You want to come? And then I was like, yeah. And then I turned around, I was like, hey, you're new, right? Yeah, you want to go grab lunch? I was like, I would, but I'm going with them. So it was, I think at that moment, it was clear to us that like, man, this body of people, like they really care for one another, and there's a real sense of like community, and I was immediately welcomed into that. It didn't take 5 weeks of people seeing my face and be like, oh, we recognize. I mean, I was a stranger, and people were like trying to get it in with me as a stranger. So I think after that experience, I went home and we went home and we talked about it, and we were just like, man, we're gonna go for 3 more weeks just to be for sure. But we feel like this is where we were just so blown away by people just wanting to spend quality time with us.
I relate to that so much. I think the difference is we were not looking to go to a new church. We got invited to come here for a baby dedication, and I just remember leaving and like people like talking to me at church, like checking in, like introducing themselves the first time we were there. And I remember on the way driving home being like, I think I want to go back there next week. That felt really special, and we just kept going. And I think one of the big parts about that we realized what we were missing at our old church was that intentionality of the community. Like church had just felt like it was church on Sunday, and you showed up and you heard a good word and you left encouraged, and that was kind of it. And we had a lot of people leaving our church, a lot of good friends. So I realized how much like that intentionality of community was something that we didn't have in our church experience. And experiencing that, having people be like, hey, you want to come over really soon, or even after church, like having Tim come and talk and like introduce himself and get to know us is like, the pastor's talking to me on like the second time I've been here. This is weird. Like, people care about me here more than just like, hey, how are you? Enough to ask like deeper questions beyond that, and even just the desire to get to know people on a deeper level of inviting us into their space, wanting to, build a deeper relationship than just like a, hey, I see you on Sunday and we wave and we sit in the same area, has been something that's really, really special, and I think is what kept us coming back. And I don't even think we ever left from that one time we just showed up to visit. We just kept staying. And
we are Habakkuk, I believe that's 2:4. Our desire is the Lord's desire to see the knowledge of the glory of the Lord cover the face of the earth like the waters cover the sea, right? So we're not just advocates for the Avenue Community Church, we're advocates for gospel expansion, for church planting specifically. Maybe just really briefly, like a couple bullets. For somebody out here who'll be watching this, if they are at a church and happy, why should their antenna be up for church plants? And if someone is kind of displaced right now and they don't have a church home, why should they give church plants a try?
I think church plants are real fertile ground to work. Sometimes with the more established churches, it's a machine kind of factor to it. There's the greeters, and sometimes they just don't need you. They don't need you like a church plant will need you.
There is no doubt.
Exactly, a church plant
No
will
doubt.
need you. And I think it's important for people, if they're not serving in that capacity where they are, church plant might be a good opportunity for them to come in where they can really put their hands to the ministry and be very active in all the needs that the church has. I mean, there's so many people that just go to church as like a consumer. They just go consume the Word of God. They go consume a good worship service. They go consume, and they're not really putting their hands to the plow. And a church plant is fertile ground for putting your hands to the plow. And I think that's good. And then you build these really deep, meaningful connections when you're working in service with other people. So
If y'all know Josh Warren, he's so funny. We were sitting down and we were thinking about taking the step towards the Avenue. And he was like, it's a church plant. We're gonna have to do so much work. And he's like, yeah, bro.
Yep.
That's true.
Indeed. I mean, kind of going back on what Ock's saying about, I feel like just kind of giving you a purpose, like a project and like something to work on, whereas you can kind of get lost in the being comfortable in a previous environment, or if you're displaced or, hurt, you can kind of lay back and not be involved. But here it's like you come get involved and make an impact, and God's going to work through you and through that and kind of giving you some meaning and direction that you got to have. It's like, all right, we check that one off. Now you move to the next and move to the next. Keep giving yourselves little goals to do. And I think that's what a church plant can do for your spiritual life as well.
I feel like in church plants, the Spirit is at work. People have made a decision and feel really led to it. So the Spirit's super at work in that. And then like kind of what you're saying, it reminds me of like the start of a school. I feel like one thing that the Avenue does really well, because you need all hands on deck, is it allows you to use your giftings in a really intentional way. So it's like, wait, you're good at that? You can do that? All right, we need you. I need help. So it's like your giftings are being used for good, but you're also being stretched and pushed in a way that you may have kind of really consumed and only consumed. And that for sure makes you stretch yourself, but also forces you to get to know other people.
I think for 5 years, even just looking at Ock, stretching him, because he's like, bruh, let's get a this, that. But I love the fact that probably for the Avenue, would you say 60% of our musicians come from within our body? They are our covenant members. Oh, I haven't picked up the instrument since high school, but I'm gonna use it, you know? And I was down the depth chart 6-string singer at my previous church, but I heard y'all need voices and praise God, you know what I mean? I think it makes it's us, and we love it because it's just us. It's our thing. You know?
That's good.
Did something fall?
Don't use that as a basis to not hire musicians, though. Let me say that real quick while we take a little break.
Yeah. So basically, y'all, we will never hire. Look at him. Look at that. Oh, eye roll. Did anybody else want some of that? Or y'all good on that one? All right. Let's talk vision. PT's favorite thing to do. I got more vision than I got time to execute. But where do you see the Ave in 5 years, and what role do you see yourself playing in that? If that makes any sense.
I mean, when I think about 5 years, I think like our city is so hurting, our community needs so much right now. And so I think about Matthew 5, and I think about the Sermon on the Mount, and where we can be in 5 years when Jesus talks about being a city on a hill or being a lamp on a stand. And he says, man, you can be light and let your light shine so bright that other people see your good deeds and glorify God. And so I was like, that is the vision of where we can be. And I think for me, as I think about how do I do that, it's like only Jesus is going to do that through me, because I need a lot. He's got to work on me a lot more in that 5 years so that I can then live out the witness. If we're going to be essentially witnessing, which is like we're going to testify to the work and person of Jesus, I just got to be living in that.
That's right.
All day, every day.
Every day.
So
that's one of our elders, y'all. By 5 years, he may have rolled off and rolled back on. We don't know. That'd probably be the right
Yes,
time.
so, but
In 5 years, I hope that we are in that building.
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Is that an eye roll? Is that another eye roll?
That was not an eye roll. That was
oh, please, Lord.
yes, that was an eye roll.
No,
No, man. I think it'll be sweet to have a central location where exactly what Douglas is talking about is like people know, man, it's like a lighthouse. You know what I'm saying? It's just spinning in all directions right there at that location, just illuminating the whole block, the whole neighborhood. Like, it'll just be cool to just have that set up. So I'm really excited about the building and the space, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. Not hopefully, I mean, full of faith, it's gonna happen. You know, so I definitely see us there in 5 years. From being a music guy here in 5 years, I would just love for the Avenue to have its music, its own original music. So we're doing things now to kind of foster creativity and but I think we have a ton of talented people. I think we have a ton of talented musicians, singers, writers, and I would just love to see the Avenue creating more, like shorts, video, like whatever, just anything.
Shorts,
yeah.
like videos,
You know what I'm saying?
documentaries.
Just documentaries, panel style discussions. You know what I'm saying? I just would love to see more of that creative arm get fleshed out. So, as far as my role in all of that, I hope that I'm right in the mix. I hope that I'm right in the mix. I hope that I'm still here. I believe I will be, and that we'll just be from a music and art standpoint, really, really being intentional. And I know this is your heart. Like PT is all the raps that you guys see on Sunday. I'm not a fan of the rap in worship personally, but anytime you've seen somebody just bust out in a rap during a worship song, that's PT, pushing it. But I love that because you're just trying to incorporate more art, more forms of expression, different things. And so I just hope that in 5 years, we'd be, you come to one of our services and you'd see, it's just no telling what you're gonna experience because we're just so open to all these forms of expressing our worship to the Lord.
Like that one of my other like favorite moments was our Christmas service last year.
Yes.
Because there had been so much talk for so long of incorporating skits and dance and like all of these things that people have been wanting to do, and to see that come together was really beautiful. And so I think, just going off what you're saying, Ev, would love to have more of that, whatever that looks like. I don't know. But 5 years, I feel like for me personally, the Lord has done a lot of work recently of revealing areas that I need to be stretched in. And so in 5 years, just praying that continues, like praying that I don't get comfortable with where I've been, because I have been lately. And so praying that, and praying that for the rest of our body too, that we're okay with being stretched.
Do you have to be okay with being stretched?
You got to be comfortable. We got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
I would kind of agree with what Rachel was saying. I just lost my train of thought.
Get that train back on the track, girl.
But I will agree with what she's saying. I think I have been very comfortable at where I am and my gifts and where I can be to help the Avenue grow in many different ways. But in 5 years, I see different ministries, kids ministries, our youth ministry, our outreach ministries growing tremendously. And even for me, like having an impact in the women's ministry, having an impact in the students ministry, where I really don't put I don't express that deep. I just have a deep heart for student ministry. I have a deep heart for women's ministry. And it blows my mind of thinking like, where can we be in 5 years? And where can our women's ministry be in 5 years? And our students, and I mean, I even have a child now, will be growing up in this church. So I can just see it going in so many different ways, but going in numbers.
Crazy. I'm sitting here like, what are you talking about? Do we have to just set up a panel just so we can unpack all of Nini's visions and dreams? I mean, but seriously, I do think this is such an important place to maybe just put a comma to. It's like, I think sometimes the mother church gets the credit for planting a church, and then maybe the lead guy gets a church for being the primary visionary. I think I have learned early that, yes, there is a kind of a central vision. There's a thing that I think all of us can kind of be able to tell them. Largely, a lot of that probably resides between me and Jesus, but then there's a big space that has to be filled with really allowing our people, their visions have to be incorporated into this. And honestly, I think where we will be in 5 years is, yes, in part, gonna be judged by whether or not we were able to realize some of the original vision, but also it's your visions coming to fruition. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here like, man, we need to really encourage our people. What is the role you see God playing? And we need to start pushing you into that, because that's gonna be pivotal to whatever God's gonna do with us. So thank you. That was awesome.
And I think,
No, go ahead.
And I think just like the ultimate goal, this probably has nothing to do with the question, but of just seeing like God being glorified in this church and seeing how Jesus can be lifted high. And I don't know, just kind of what like Ak was saying, having our church being right there on the corner of Summer. You'll have people from different areas, different sides of Summer, and how can we be the light? How can we share the good news? Yeah.
And I think what you were saying, Tim, about it's your vision, but it's ours too. I mean, and just thinking too about people's giftings and talents and how certain people are gifted certain ways, where you could say something that triggers like a thought or a process in my mind that'll make me go, oh man, like, and then out of that spins off these 4 other things that maybe you weren't even envisioning when you said, hey man, I'd love to do this. And then it just gives, and so I think it's like a living, breathing, kind of like organic, constantly evolving vision where everybody's input is needed. And I'm gonna tell you, some churches don't welcome that. And I'm telling you, some churches
You
are
cannot be honest on this pod video, man.
I'm just telling you from my experience, like, that's what makes the Avenue so unique to me, is because when you're sitting there saying that, you genuinely mean that. You genuinely mean that, because I've seen it. I've seen where I've been able to say, hey man, what about this? What about, and you're just like, man, if you're feeling that, run. And I'm just saying, like, there's some places that don't give their people the freedom to dream, because the ego of that person and that's the leader, it just feels like all the good ideas got to come from him or her or whatever. And that's just not how it is here. So it's just, again, doubly encouraging to hear you say that again, just like, because you're seeking that out. You want us as the community and the body to say, like, yeah, man, here's your vision, but man, here's this other thing that can tie into that.
I mean, that's good, because I believe that. I know, like, from a leadership perspective, it's like the people aren't gonna, buy in unless they weigh in. So that's what you're saying. But part of it is like, it's not your vision. Like, you're the under shepherd of Christ's vision for this church. I mean, he's doing it, and we're all weighing in together and buying in and just going out and executing. I mean, it's so great. So right on. And it's unique to have this in this body. And so it's something like, we love it. And if you look at it in the camera, this is your chance. Bring it in. Bring it to us. We will make it happen. Or you will make it happen.
You will make it happen.
You will make it happen. But we will support you.
That's one caveat. That's right.
I think within that, like, I get like thinking about in 5 years having a building, a space, like really being the light for Summer Avenue and using all the different giftings. I think in 5 years, just one thing that's really important to me is that vision still stays the like anchor in the vision. Like, we're still able to use our gifts towards that. But growth is exciting. Like, having more people come to know the Lord, having more people in community is great. But it is a little bit scary for me too, because I don't want to lose the intentionality of relationship. Like, the walking really deeply with each other, I think, is something that is easy to happen as the church grows. And I hope in 5 years, like, we're still putting the Lord first. We're still asking people to come over after church. We're still asking people the hard questions. We have people who are holding us accountable, people who are challenging us, people who are still spurring us on in our relationship to the Lord. As we get more people, I just hope in 5 years the church doesn't lose that. We're walking together. We're wedding two divided communities to come together, but within that, we're walking alongside each other to really support each other really intentionally. Because I've seen other churches, as they get bigger, it's easier to lose a little bit of that and kind of get lost in the shuffle. But I'm hopeful that that won't be the case.
But that's real. I think we were in a meeting not too long ago. Don't let any of this scare you. But it was just perfect timing, because the person who was leading our meeting was just talking to us about vision drift, right? Which is, a lot of institutions, organizations, churches deal with that, right? It's like, man, we thought we were doing a thing, but slowly but surely we started doing something else. And so I like you, Cullen, just pray God continues to crystallize. I think the main thing is there's this broad thing of being a family who's ushering in and hopefully allowing God to bring shalom to this area through them. But I think that thing, I'm also learning too, like, to embrace our thing. Like, I also feel like, and Douglas, I think you were in there when I said this, maybe it's like, I think there are things that I know now about our vision at 5 years of being a pastor of the church, I could have never expressed those things on day one. I didn't know them. You know, I didn't know how valuable they were. I didn't know how important they were. But I think God is really zeroing those things in now, and I look forward to leaning into those things in the next 5 years to come. And I think, you know, I am one who is probably gonna walk in and be like, yeah, we're gonna be the church for everybody. In learning the difference between being a church that is welcoming to everybody, but also knowing that, oh, this might not be the church for everybody, and that's okay. And we're gonna lean in though, because our niche place in Christendom, in the kingdom of God, in Memphis, is the thing we do. And we gotta embrace that and just lean into that. And I think I'm looking forward to that, you know, whatever that is, you know? Did you have something to say, or you just, oh no, you had already went?
I already went.
Everybody already went? I wanted to, you know, this church got birthed in a large, to a large degree out of the push for multi-ethnicity. Transculturalism is a word that has been thrown around in some circles. The integration of age and stage and race, economics and all those kind of things. You know, for you, hey, maybe how hard was that to actually be a part of a ministry with those kind of stated goals and to really actually see that thing kind of lived out? And is it still part of something that you hold valuable, and maybe why? So whatever you just heard, you can just toss that up in whatever way you want it.
I mean, I guess I would say for me, we do a thing in our family where we do best, worst, and tell us about your day, best, worst, and funniest. And so the best part of your day, the worst part of your day, and the funniest part of your day. So I kind of think of it in that type. Like the best is like, and you and I were talking about this recently, like being here in this midst is like, I wouldn't have thought to say my walk with Christ was superficial or surface level or shallow, but like the depth of my relationship with Jesus is not the same before I came to the Avenue. When it was the way he was using all these people up in here in this mix. So to me, that's the best. What I would say the worst is in that is, and this was a big shift, mind shift, is like just walking through pain with people. And usually I'm like, hey, we're all gonna have pain, so we just gotta deal with it. Just come on, you know, we gotta keep on going. And again, not that that's wrong, but other people are going through pain. And you have to join them in their pain, even if you're not feeling that pain, even if you don't understand that pain. But it's because you love somebody that their pain becomes your pain. Like you're like a parent or a spouse or a brother or a sister. So that to me has been the hardest, you know, just to be in that mist and walk through that funk with people. It's not my funk, but it is my funk because it's your funk, because I love you. And I think the funniest is just like, there've been so many young, hip, cool people around here that just getting to mix it up and feel young again and feel cool again. And that has been so cool, such that like, I was like, man, I went and got a tattoo to be cool, man, and to have fun and to be that.
Wait, did you really get a tattoo?
For real.
What?
What? For real.
Where is it?
No, man.
No, you didn't.
Next video will be a reveal. I'll just go that far. But so I feel it's like
Breaking news.
that's not.
But hey, hey, a low hanging fruit. Let's just get this brother his first pair of J's, man.
Oh, no.
When Douglas walks in here with some Jordans on, I'm losing it.
Man, I had Jordans in 1986. The first ones when I was in 6th and 7th. And like I wore the 1s, 2s, and 3s.
The proto.
The 1, 2, and 3.
Back in middle school and high school.
Original ones.
Yeah.
No, that is so great. I love that. I would say the multicultural, socioeconomic, just the melting pot, it's absolutely 100% necessary and needed. It just gets us out of our comfort zone. You know, when you're running with a certain group of people and you can all identify on this, you know, we all make the same amount of money, we all black or white, or we're all whatever, you just lose sight of certain things. And when you can get into a room where different people are gonna have different things, there's certain things that I'm gonna struggle with that Douglas will never struggle with.
Relative to your culture, your stage of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it brings perspective when I talk to him about
right.
that.
That's right.
Because I'm not just talking to somebody that can identify with I'm talking to somebody that's looking from the outside in at my and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, those things are important to be able to get together, get fresh perspective, get uncomfortable. I love to think of it like at the Avenue, our culture is completely unique and different. If you come from an all this or an all that, when you come here, you're gonna be uncomfortable because it doesn't line up with that or this. It is something different. And so everybody's uncomfortable until you get comfortable with the uncomfortableness. So it's just like, I love that because we're all learning a new thing. We're all creating this new culture together. And I think it's absolutely necessary. I think that when we read scripture, this is what heaven will be. There won't be a black section, a white section, or a rich section, or a poor section. You know, we're all going to be worshiping at the feet of Jesus together. So what better way to literally experience heaven on earth than to worship together? So.
And I totally agree with everything that you just said. And speaking from experience, I'm actually a part of a small group with all people that are different from me, all white women. At first I was, kind of, especially from someone coming from a Baptist church growing up, I was like, I don't really want to be in this kind of setting, but kind of what Ox said, being comfortable with the uncomfortable and just learning from different people. It's no telling what I can learn from this woman who's white, 35, and grew up totally different from me. And it's no telling what I can teach her and show her. And just, I remember we were talking about the freedom of expression of just praising God. And I don't know when this was, but even teaching people how to just freely express who your Savior is to you in different ways. But I don't know, I'm just kind of going on a tangent. But
I am praising God for your unofficial leadership of my worship for the last 5 years.
Yes.
And praise God, my sister.
Yeah, I just forgot what I was going to say.
See, because I just railroad stuff just too.
It's okay, it'll come back.
I resonate with what Douglas said earlier about the depth of relationship with people and with Christ being so different. Of like growing up in like a Southern Baptist all-white church in East Tennessee, of coming to Memphis and then coming to the Avenue. I feel like I've learned so much more about who Jesus is and what his character was and how he revealed that to people and how other people reveal that to each other. And it's just such a beautiful mesh of all of those things. And to me, that's why it is so necessary. Like what Ak was saying, of we need each other to see more of who Jesus is.
And just like what he just said, like we get to experience heaven on earth with all different types of people, and it's like, why wouldn't you want to be a part of something like that? Why wouldn't you want to praise Jesus and walk alongside of people that are reflecting Jesus? I mean, we're literally all reflecting Jesus, his character, his love, his patience, So, yeah.
I think the only thing I would add is kind of what you were mentioning earlier about just the diversity of like thought and interaction. I think it's really easy when everyone thinks the same, looks the same, has the same background to get in this idea of like groupthink, and you don't have the like alternate perspectives. You don't have someone who's able to give a different perspective in a challenging time or situation, and you don't have anyone to check you on things that you may say or think or do that aren't honoring to the Lord in a way that you may even know. And then when you ask, like, is it hard? My first thought was like, no, it's not hard at all. It's great. And then I'm like, yeah, I think there's hard and some uncomfort. There is hard. It can be challenging to feel like, oh, I'm not like them, or am I saying something wrong, or am I being appropriate, or do they feel like I'm judging them? Am I being judged for who I am? And I don't feel like anyone does that, which I think is really, really helpful, because you have people who are, here for a church community. And I think within church community, there's a level of relationship, the depth that you can really get to if we're pushing each other towards the Lord. So it can be uncomfortable at times, but that's how you grow in your relationship. I think if you're just so comfortable doing the same thing, talking to the same people, interacting with the same people all the time, you're never opened up to a wider perspective. And that's something that I've really appreciated.
I would, again, it just goes back to like how this church, in my opinion, is just so different from any of my other experiences. Because talking about being uncomfortable, I remember during the last election cycle when we had this meeting, and it was like, everybody who's got an issue, show up at this time, we're gonna talk about it. And I was going, not even because, I was just like, this is a bad idea. This is bad, and I'm taking my popcorn so I can see how this unfolds. So I show up to this thing, and every perspective, every thought, every, Democrat, Republic, whatever, different was represented in that room. And we had like a Christ-honoring conversation about politics in a church where there's different opinions and views. It's like we weren't all just Democrat or all Republican sitting in there talking about, because that's easy. But it's very difficult when somebody is different from you and we're in there talking about it, and people are, and I just was sitting there just going, I thought this was gonna self-implode. And I kind of had to like repent a little bit, because I went there to watch the drama, because I thought to myself, there's no way that this is not gonna be like, somebody's gonna get, this is gonna be explosive. Right. And man, it was not. And people were not cowering, people were not sharing what they really truly believe and are convicted by. It's just, there was a level of like respect and honor, and like, man, you are an image bearer, and your opinion is different from mine. I'm gonna listen to you, and then I'm gonna share my thing, and then you're listening to me. And I was just blown away by that, and thought to myself, like, I ain't never been to a church like this, because no other churches would even touch this, especially with how explosive things were already in that political space already. So
that safe conversation like forces you to actually know it, like think about what you believe and be able to justify it in a way that, if there's not that diversity of thought that exists or opinion, like you could just get stuck in your ways, and you're like, I don't even know why I believe what I believe. Yeah. It forces you in that reflection place in a really safe environment to hear, oh, you believe that? I may not agree with it, but I see why, and now I have to think about, like, why do I believe this or say that this is true?
I'm
curious about
what you about to say.
What
you about to say?
When you wanted to do that, were you at all nervous about it being an explosive thing that you would come to regret, or were you just at peace knowing like that was going to be positive and healthy and good? Or
I think it was one of those, you can't just talk about it, you got to be about it. And I think which was kind of going into what I probably was going to say, is like, man, I knew I didn't want, like, I have these moments where I just wake up, seriously, gripping fear, daydreaming, whatever. Oh my gosh, are we just pretentious? Are we just fooling ourselves? We're not really what we purport ourselves to be. We just all fluff, no show. And I know that's not true, but in my heart, it's like, I don't want to, it's gotta be real for me. You know what I'm saying? I can't participate in whatever. And that happens to me on a number of fronts, but it's like, man, I just remember going in, we have to, in order to be a valid expression of true biblical koinonia, we have to be the church that is willing to have the conversations. And we gotta be willing to leave a little upset. And we gotta be willing to leave and be like, I don't understand them. And we gotta leave with some tears, and then we gotta reaffirm our relationship. And I gotta sit back down, I gotta listen again. So it wouldn't have been a win, it wouldn't have been a loss if we left and it's like, oh, we have work to do. I'd be like, yes, praise God. Like, you know what I mean? And I think the thing that I have thank God for, especially in year 5, which has also been hard too, as one of the shepherds of this house, I know the novelty in certain spaces has worn off, you know? There's a little bit that the newness, like we coming together to do this thing, but then when you start serving with a brother or sister for 3 years and you realize they got a bad attitude, or you know what, this person is a little lazy, they don't schedule things properly, and you know, and that rubs you a certain kind of way, and you gotta commute 25 minutes to church and you don't know if you're supposed to be serving or not, and now you have real house problems. Praise God. Now we've arrived, you know what I'm saying? Now we doing the thing, and I have been thanking God, and I knew it was coming. I know that one of the hardest things really about, you know, ministry is really the merging of all those things. And we don't just have house problems. Now we've had some issues where it has intersected at the point of just cultural differences. And it's like, uh-oh, now this is what we said we was about. Show and prove, you know? And I'm grateful. I don't think we're ready for that test, but we couldn't have been ready for those moments if we have not built ourselves up and trained and exposed and established the culture that is ready, you know, to do true gospel work regardless of the circumstances. You know, I think when you look at Acts and you just look at all the circumstantial things that are happening, the external forces, Psalms 91, like we preached about today, all the things happen around, but are not able, whether in prison, whether disagreements about personnel and who we bring on which journey, which routes to take, how we're hearing from the spirits, theological issues about circumstance, it's not stopping the progress of the gospel. It's what it is, man. And so I love the fact that we're at a point now where we have all the issues, but it ain't stopping nothing. I'm ready for the next 5. All right, y'all, it's time for the hot seat. Avenue 5-year anniversary hot seat. Just a couple of y'all can knock it out wherever you feel led. I say the word, you just give me what is immediately coming to mind. COVID-19. I got reactions.
Sunday night service.
Oh,
That was so sweet.
Yeah.
Man. Morning service?
Yeah,
I
no.
love the
Thumbs
Sunday.
down.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
No.
You got a weekend again. You could go out on the weekend. Saturday.
to the family.
It was
I like
fun
Sunday
for like
morning.
2 weeks, and then it was like, never mind.
The
This feels
controversy.
unique.
There were 2 camps. There was
Yes.
Yeah, very
get
true.
back to Sunday morning and please
don't
keep us,
ever
don't
get-
ever go
Talk
back.
about multicultural.
Yeah.
That thing
It was
was,
divisive.
woo,
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was.
We had strong opinions on
Yeah.
both sides. We did have some people leave, but God bless y'all. We love you. We all back to the morning.
Yeah, come on back.
We back.
I remember just sitting, being really hot and uncomfortable in chairs, and forgetting to bring a chair and not having a chair, and then you're like, who's gonna be underneath the tree? Do you have the tree spot? Do you not?
Because yes.
Yep.
Well, no, I turned that way, but I thought you took that breath. All right, speaking of COVID-19, there were several iterations of COVID-19 worship. Parking lot worship, gym outside worship, you know what I'm saying? You know, Highland Heights Baptist, and Zoom worship.
Oh my God.
What you got?
No.
The Facebook stuff was just, I was not a fan.
Zoom.
But it was good, but it was sometimes falling asleep. I was so happy to be back in person.
Because you was in your jammies. My folks
Yeah.
literally, I would be preaching from by my fireplace. People would be coming, you know, cereal in their hair, sitting on the couch and jammies, and it was wild.
Zoom worship, I know, was a logistical nightmare for music, but it was really sweet to like be able to sit with roommates,
Yes.
whoever,
Yeah,
and
true.
like
Yeah.
still have community, even though we don't know what's happening in the world.
Yes.
So it was not a fan, but there were some good moments.
Yeah. Praise
Yeah.
God.
Not to mention, go ahead.
Oh, I remember was it in the Cougar Den that is now? You were doing.
We were doing worship in there
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
That was
And live streaming
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
Well,
Th-
and
that's
then we
right,
would have
that's
we started letting some people come.
Come in.
That's right.
too.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that was dramatic too, because people were like, "Oh, did you get the invite?" Like,
Yeah,
oh,
VIP, invite
I
only.
can't come.
Oh yeah, people totally felt that way. 100%.
I never got the invite.
Well, how do you know if we can come or not? I mean, I think
don't
they're
know.
just like
We need to
selecting
get
a
up
few
in there.
people. Well, how do you get selected? Listen, I don't know how to.
to be on the worship team. and
Right.
show up.
But
The
okay,
worship team did those really cool, like, wasn't that when that started? The longer, like, recorded.
Yes.
No,
The worship?
That was
No?
for Christmas.
Was that after?
that was Christmas.
Christmas was good.
Christmas was
Yeah.
Christmas.
I love that.
Christmas COVID was awesome.
It was.
Yeah.
Because we did the Advent
Yes.
record.
We
That
put
was
our-
so awesome. Let me tell y'all what happened with that. let me just tell you what happened. So it was November 2nd, and Tim walks after a staff meeting
It was so stressful.
and says, man, you know it'd be great? I think we should record a Christmas album.
Why do you get
And I
my
said-
voice
I
in
said-
such a
Yeah, it's such like I thought it would be great. Because that's how it sounded to me. And I looked at him and I was like, Christmas is next month, bro. We can't record a Christmas album and be ready for next month. No.
Yeah.
And then he was just like, all right. And he was so sad and broken that I was just like, man, I can't believe I just crushed
Tell me how
this
you
man.
really feel.
So then I said, Tim, hold up. It's probably not going to be good because we don't have enough time, but we'll do it. And I then got on an email, and Rachel can attest to this.
Yep.
I emailed everybody and I just said, hey y'all, this is gonna sound crazy. We need to record like 8 songs. We got like 6 weeks to do it. Here's the plan. We're gonna meet this day, this song. Rachel, you're singing that, you're singing that. And everybody's response on the team was like, this is so exciting. and we did it, and man, it turned out
was awesome.
5 times better
Yeah.
than what I thought it was gonna be.
Shout
So-
out
Great.
C. Isaac.
yeah, it was
Love you,
great.
bro.
It was a great experience. I think the team really enjoyed it, and creatively it was awesome.
Yeah.
We at some point it was just like, let's record these songs, and before you know it, we're shooting music videos for it.
Yeah, burgers.
I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
We had a great
Yeah.
time doing it.
Shout out Bill. Thanks for letting us use your space.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of which, Advent at the Avenue.
Beautiful. Some of the most beautiful memories I have. The candlelight service is
Oh,
always
yeah.
super special.
Yeah.
Pictures.
Yep, the pictures.
The app will treat you right with the picture game.
Yeah.
All you have to do is show up to one, and then you get your little new Facebook profile picture.
Christmas
Nene,
card.
Nene and her
Time,
family, they will take at least 20 minutes to just go get you some food and snack, and they gonna get all they pictures done.
Absolutely. You gotta get
The
them.
food's always good.
Then the food is good. Bet.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the kids choir usually happens
Yep.
during
Oh
that
my
too,
gosh.
and that's always really sweet. I remember the recorded one too, the like Zoom.
that one was probably one of my
yes.
favorites.
Oh, that was
We did
good.
With
have
the
one.
headphones.
Put it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Special. Yeah.
All right, last one. Hot take, hot topic. When you see that beautiful dove logo for the Avenue, what comes to mind?
Shalom on summer.
Community that really cares.
Family was the first thing that popped into my head.
I think about differences, culture differences.
Yeah. Just a beautiful expression of what faith working itself out through people. It's
Yeah.
like,
Hey, it has been 5 beautiful years
Sure has.
doing life with y'all, sharing God's word with y'all, praying with you, worshiping with you. And I couldn't imagine doing it with a different set of people, seriously. I was thanking God, praising God, our elders. I was like, oh, you know what? by this time I'm usually like, oh man, I'd be so happy when that person rolls off. But I've been so supported as a pastor by men who love me and I know care for me as a person as well as a pastor. So I really am thankful for the group of people that we're with. And I think it's I have had brothers and sisters and friends and co-laborers in ministry who would get to this time in life of their church and the fatigue is in, the burnout is real, and they're ready to move on. Just telling you all, at least from my end, I'm ready for 5 more.
Yeah.
We got work to do and I'm ready to go get it. I love y'all. Here's to 5, baby.
Cheers to 5, y'all.
Cheers to 5.
Oh, we're all doing the we're all putting our hands up.